Hello, everyone. My name is Kenton Covescu. I'm an ex-Googler, an ex-BCG consultant, and the founder of Rocketblocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. In today's Rocketblocks mini lesson, we're going to talk about the difference between a product manager and a product marketing manager. I know when I was personally going into tech for the first time that this distinction was definitely a little bit fuzzy to me, and it seemed like there was a lot of overlap, and sometimes there was a lot of variation from company to company. So what I want to do is lay out a framework that can help you think through what this distinction looks like and understand how these roles work together, but also what their real kind of similar and dissimilar domains are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lay out a framework based on the spectrum of tasks in the next section, and then we're going to walk through some examples on that spectrum and show you how these two roles, which are similar but different, shake out. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, let's start by defining the spectrum of tasks that I referred to in the introduction. And what I want you to think about is picture a spectrum, and on one end of the spectrum you have customers. These are the people that are buying your product, that are using your product. And on the other end of the spectrum you have engineers. So these are the people internally at the company that are building, launching, iterating, maintaining the product itself. So that's one key thing you need to remember about the spectrum. Customers on one side, engineers on the other. The other thing I want you to remember about the spectrum is that it's a tactical sandwich. And what I mean by that is the tasks on the extreme ends of the spectrum are tactical tasks, and the tasks in the center of the spectrum are strategic tasks. So you have a spectrum with customers on one end, engineers on the other, tactical tasks on the outside of the spectrum, and strategic tasks in the middle of the spectrum. So that's what we're looking at. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through some examples and look at some of those tactical tasks on one side and the other side and some of the strategic tasks in the middle and see how these two roles break down and where they differ. So let's jump into that. Now that we've defined the spectrum itself, let's start fleshing it out and look at the tasks on both of the extreme ends and in the middle as well, and how those kind of break down between the two roles. So let's start on the customer side. On the customer side of the spectrum, and remember we're talking about the tactical stuff that's on the extreme side of the spectrum, these are going to be things like, maybe managing ad campaigns and making sure that the splash pages that those ad campaigns lead to are set up correctly. It might be like writing the copy for the marketing website or the homepage, or creating collateral that goes out to the sales team to help train them on the product or specific features, or writing FAQs about the product that the sales team and account managers, etc., will use to communicate with the customers. Those are tactical tasks that are really kind of customer-facing in nature, so they're on this end of the spectrum. And when you have a PM and a PMM on the same team, it is extremely likely that the PMM, the product marketing manager, is going to own or take the lead on most of those tactical tasks that are customer facing. Now on the other side of the spectrum, now we're on the engineering side of the spectrum and thinking about tactical tasks on that side. These might be things like triaging the list of bugs, like things that are broken in the product that need to be fixed, or managing actual upcoming feature releases with the engineering team. So these are new features that the team is working to build and release. Or it could be things like writing a spec or a PRD, which stands for Project Requirement Documents. This is another tactical thing that a PM will have to do to get products released into the wild, communicate with engineering about what needs to be built. So these are tactical items on the engineering side of the spectrum. And again, on the flip side, like the product manager will likely take the lead on almost all the items on that end of the spectrum. So where does that leave us? We have a PMM focusing on the customer-facing tactical stuff, a product manager focusing on the engineering-facing tactical items, and now you've got the strategic items in the middle. So the strategic items in the middle might be things like user segmentation, or maybe prioritizing which user segments a product is really going to focus on attracting and working for. It might be things like figuring out what is the go-to-market strategy for a new product. The strategic items in the middle of this spectrum is where there's the most fuzziness between product marketing managers and product managers. Almost always there's some pretty healthy collaboration between them in this spectrum. In some cases, you'll have certain PMs that focus more on technical stuff and leave more of the strategic stuff in the center to product marketing managers, and sometimes vice versa, where you have product marketing managers that are extremely focused on the customer side and leave more of the product strategy stuff exclusively to the PMs. In most cases, though, you traditionally have a mix where the PM and the PMM are collaborating pretty tightly in that area in the middle to inform on those strategic decisions. In some cases, and this is a lot more rare today, but like early in Apple's product development cycle and how they worked, they actually didn't even have product managers. Apple only traditionally had product marketing managers and engineering managers. And now that we've talked about the spectrum, you can see how that kind of makes sense, because an engineering manager would handle the engineering tasks, the product marketing manager would handle marketing and customer facing tasks, and they were just covering both sides of their spectrum. That's not how most modern tech companies work. Most companies have product managers, product marketing managers, and then you also have way over on the other side of the spectrum, engineering managers as well. Finally, let's take a look at how this breaks down with a real product example. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the recent launch of Uber Health. I'm going to put up the homepage here in a second. And we're going to look at that and think about how the tasks may have actually broken down between the product manager on Uber Health and the product marketing manager. Okay, so I'm going to flash it up here for a second. Great. So now that you've seen the Uber Health product homepage, let's think about what tasks the product marketing manager may have owned versus the product manager. Well, likely the product marketing manager here owned all of the things that you actually just saw. Like, what's the right image to use? What do we want to convey about this product? What should the actual copy on the homepage be? What features do we really want to highlight on the homepage? What are the key things that we want health companies that we want to use this feature and functionality? What do we want them to know right when they land on the homepage? The product marketing manager also probably spent some time equipping the Uber support team with the right knowledge about the product so that they could answer incoming questions when they came in, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, the product manager was probably busy working with engineering to make sure some of these features were rolled out, correctly and implemented correctly, like HIPAA compliance and some of the other stuff that you see featured on that homepage. They were probably in the weeds, writing specs, doing bug triaging, working with the Uber engineering team to get that done. And then in the middle, they were probably collaborating on some of the features like, okay, what is the go-to-market strategy? How do we want to launch this? What press outlets are we going to tell, etc. Maybe some other things like which healthcare providers do we want to target first? What's the user segmentation? What's the right strategy for that? So that's how it would break down on a real product potentially. So thank you for watching this video on the difference between product management and product marketing management at tech companies. We've got tons of great content coming out both in the consulting world and the product management world on a weekly basis. So if you haven't subscribed yet already, please do so below. There is a big red button down there. And thanks again for watching. Have a great day.